seconds.
There it is.
Okay. Admitting.
Tell me about it. Didn't I see a lot of you folks just about 12 hours ago?
If not two.
Hello and welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Bill, I don't think you're just 24/7. You're like the news. Hello. Hey, why don't you guys tell us who's tuning in tonight? Can you write in the chat where you're coming from? Would be great if we could get that information from you. Love to say hello to you personally.
People are still joining.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hello, hello. Here's
We've got them all
thumbs up. Okay, there's Richard. Hey, Richard, good to see you. Miss Ann from Michigan. Garrett, all right. We're not going to talk any football tonight, though, Garrett. Maybe, maybe.
Not even ice hockey.
Miss Linda. Hello, hello. Brianna, Northeast Indiana. Miss Laura from Wisconsin. Hello, hello.
Iowa City.
Paul, Iowa City. We'll get started here in just a minute. We're just going to let a few more people in for the next minute or so. So we want to make sure we get everybody in before we actually start this presentation, so they're not missing, missing the first part. Garrett's question to you, Bill: where will the Bills play in the future?
Where will the Bears play in the future? God
Yes.
only knows. Hopefully in Illinois.
Dana from Kansas City, Missouri. Charles from Chicago. All right, we're just going to give it about 30 more seconds or so and see how many more people we are going to
Let's
log in here. Okay, so I'm gonna. All right. Let's see who else came in here. Barbara from St. Paul, Minnesota. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Shall we get started, Bill, or do we want to give them just 30 more seconds or so?
This is fine. If people miss the front end of the sponsors report here, that's fine with me. All right. So give me a second as I kick up our presentation on NWSOFA. Let me know if you see the opening screen.
See it?
Yeah, we just got to go back to the beginning there.
Okay.
All right, we are ready to go here. Well, welcome everybody to the NWSOFA, which stands for Northwest Suburbs Organizing for Action. We're in the Northwest Burbs of Chicago. That's commonly referred to as the land beyond O'Hare. We are an indivisible chapter, and we'll tell a little bit more about that in just a few seconds. Tonight, we have Kathleen Campbell and Richard will be doing a presentation for us on no eminent domain for CO2 pipeline. And then later on, we will have a video on the buy now. So kind of a twofer for you all. As I said, we're part of Indivisible. Each one of those little dots you see on that map is an indivisible chapter. Now over 2,700 across the country. And we are getting new indivisible chapters at the rate of 3 to 5 a day. That you just kind of multiply that out and you get an idea of the size of the organization. Tonight, we're going to be true to our commitment to help you organize and educate so that you understand the facts, so that you can sharpen your arguments to your family, friends, your attendees, and your members of your groups, etc. And you can knowledgeably express those. We are organized on a twin snowflake principle. On the left side in the orange, you see all of the communications, Team Snowflake, everything that happens. If you think you get too much information from us, this is why. But we'll do everything we can, let you know of what is coming up and how you can attend. On the right-hand side are all of our issue teams. We started out right after Sandy Hook with the very first one, gun violence prevention. And then as time has moved on, we've gone completely around in the turquoise, adding 10 different issue groups. And this last year alone, we added 9 more issue teams, which are on the inside. You can see on the bottom left side, it says climate change. Our climate change group is who is promoting and is bringing this program to you today. The secret sauce of our organization is we have 30 all volunteer members from the northwest suburbs and across the country, which is really an amazing thing, especially when you think the fact that we started with 17 members and today locally we have 10,000 and nationally 25,000 that join various groups. The way you can get to know us, you can take a picture of that QR code, grab your camera quickly, take a picture. You'll get a link tree, which is that center picture with the yellow lines. There are 15 different ways that you can click on that and you can go to our website. You can sign up, or you can make comments to the organization. You can join our Substack, our Blue Sky, and you can join our YouTube, among many, many other ways that we communicate and get information out. As you heard a little while ago from Marilyn, we are live streaming this. And so you'll find the live stream up on the NWSOFA.org website. And then when you get to that, you just click the tab that says YouTube Live, and you will go to our YouTube link, click on that, and you'll see all the videos that we've ever done. There are literally hundreds. What you want to do then is click on an area that's called Live, and that will be the last 10 to 15 current ones, and you'll see them all showing like this. So I just want to remind everybody that March 28th, across the country, across the world, there will be, well, currently there are 1,300 different locations that are signed up. We did this back in October. We had a No Kings 2. We had 7 million people show up. Our goal is to cross 10 million this time. And we've got 5 weeks to do it, and we are already gunning and moving forward on this. So tonight, once again, we have no eminent domain for CO2 pipelines. It's our first presentation. Note to you all that when we do the buy now, we'll have to turn off the video because of copyright infringement. Then we'll turn it back on during the Q&A. During the first part of the presentation, if you have a question, you can put your question in chat. But to make sure that we can find it, start that question with all caps question. And then Debbie, who is one of our co-hosts, will consolidate and ask those questions to our presenters. So with that, I'm going to turn it back to Marilyn.
Okay, so as Bill said, we are recording this. We're putting it on, it's going live on YouTube right now. So if you do not want your video or your video to be shown on YouTube and being recorded, you might want to go ahead and just stop your video with your little icon on the bottom. Just click it off. We'll still see your name or whatever that you have yourself tagged as. So if you want to do that now, that that would be great. Also want to mention, so when we actually say we're going to stop the video, we're going to stop the recording because YouTube will not allow us to stream by now the documentary because of copyright issues, and we don't want to get the organization in trouble. So, but we will re-engage right after, because I do want to hear your feedback on this film, and I do have some questions for you. So there will be some. I'm going to ask you to engage a little bit if you do stick around afterwards. Okay, so thank you very much for joining us. I'm going to thank you in advance for that, and I'm going to turn this over to Mark.
So welcome everybody to the climate change meeting for this month. So I've been working with Marilyn and Debbie and Ori said, well, you got to show this documentary, and so we put that into thing, and then I got word from Kathleen Campbell and Richard Stuckey that there's legislation in Illinois coming up on eminent domain, and that we need to stop it. And there's a bill starting to run through the legislative process. And so he said, yeah, we could give him 10 minutes or so at the beginning of this. So this is a two-parter. This part will be recorded. Put your questions in the Q&A as our normal thing. And I'm remiss in not getting Richard's title and stuff into this. Kathleen, we had them on in November, and we got the pipeline stopped going across the Mahomet aquifer down in southern Illinois, but this eminent domain thing still sits out there, and we need to put a stop to that. So anyway, why don't I turn Richard, say something about yourself, or Kathleen can. And I remember the last presentation, people commented afterward, well, it's really nice to have somebody with a cultured accent on. He really knows what he's doing, which I thought was wonderful. And so I would share that with you. So I thought it was good. But so Kathleen and Richard, take it away.
Very good. Okay, here we go. We're trying to share this. Let me know if you
I'll start off.
see that. Kathy, go
Yes.
ahead.
Okay. Rick and I had the privilege of talking to in November, and we went close to 2 hours that night. So this is just a 10-minute update. We have legislation now. We're very happy about that. I'm president of Citizens Against Heartland Greenwashing Projects, a landowner rights group that started in response to Navigator originally, but then we started fighting pipelines all over the state. Rick is director. He's been my colleague on so many presentations. We've worked together, going on 5 years now, I think, Rick. And he's director of Save Our Illinois Lands, and we're both members of the Coalition to Stop CO2 Pipelines. So click.
Hold on a second. Get there. You take that one, Kathy?
So
Yeah.
we have a bill now, and here's why, just a brief recap of what we presented for a couple hours in November. This is why eminent domain should be banned for Illinois CO2 pipelines. CO2 pipelines are unlike the energy pipelines. They carry invisible, tasteless, odorless, toxic, hazardous waste at three times the pressure of gas pipelines. All pipelines rupture eventually. PIMSA says that, actually. And when CO2 pipelines rupture, residents are exposed to asphyxiation, I have said that before, and CO2 toxicity within minutes. It happens so fast that EMS cannot possibly get out to rescue you if you're in a near distance, which could be up to 2 miles, actually. According to PIMSA, a CO2 pipeline accident occurs once a year for every 1,000 miles of pipeline, and yet the Department of Energy must have put in 94,000 miles of pipeline across the U.S. A CO2 plume moves with the wind and can be life-threatening at over 2 miles from the rupture, and that is coming from PIMSA. EMS cannot possibly reach us into it. Happens very fast. It can travel fast, heavy gas, and gas-powered vehicles stall in CO2, so you can't self-evacuate. But even if you have an all-electric car, you probably won't be in any shape to drive within a few minutes. The only protection is distance, and that's what the pipelines don't want to give us. I've given safety testimony in all 3 ICC dockets for the CO2 pipelines proposed in Illinois, and none of them were safe. All 3 CO2 pipeline applications in Illinois have routed the pipelines so close to homes, including schools, churches, businesses, that a 50% fatality rate in 10 minutes would be expected by their own plume models. Neither the Illinois nor federal regulations address safe CO2 pipeline routing, and eminent domain allows landowners to reject pipelines that are does not allow us to reject pipelines that are dangerously close. Eminent domain was never intended to take away people's safety. It was for the public good, to transport issues, but not to take away people's safety. So I'll turn it over to Rick now.
Okay, well, this is getting to be a very serious issue because Illinois is being targeted for multiple of these called Class 6. Those are the sequestration wells where CO2 will be stored, and they all require CO2 pipelines. It's becoming even more important as the data centers around the state are being proposed, huge, gigantic hyperscaler data centers, many of which will have it has CO2 generating natural gas pipelines or even just natural gas driven generators or even diesel generators, all producing more CO2. So even in places close to Chicago, where we all are, many of your people are anyhow, it's quite likely that there will be CO2 pipelines spreading through there. There's actually 13 projects now. One more has been done since we did these slides. And landowners are going to have to suffer from these pipelines. And now, if we don't do something about it, eminent domain will be used to just take their land and their rights away for them. Okay. Now we've got a couple of questions on what the current situation is. Some people say that current laws protect landowners' safety, and we're saying no, they don't. PIMSA, the organization that's responsible for developing the technical standards and so on for CO2 pipelines, is prohibited from getting involved with routing and setbacks. And as we said on the previous slide, routing is the only way to make sure that these pipelines don't really endanger lots and lots of people in a very serious way. And PIMSA has admitted that they have no control over this. They have sent letters to the companies stating clearly that states and local governments are responsible for setbacks and routing, and PIMSA has nothing to do with it. It's literally in the act that created PIMSA. But companies still claim that anything to do with safety is preempted by PIMSA. And what we need to make clear is that PIMSA is responsible for the safety of the pipeline. That is, their rules are supposed to make sure that the gas stays within the pipeline and doesn't leak from it. And if they fail to do that and the gas gets out, they sort of wash their hands of it. Not our job. We did our part. We tried to keep it in, and maybe someone who didn't do maintenance or something like that, or an earthquake happened and the pipeline split. Not our problem. So there's an aspect of safety, which is the decision on where the pipelines go, which is how safety will be managed. And it's up to the local authorities and the courts to do that. And some of them are very reluctant to get involved with it. Landowners try to negotiate safer routing, but these companies say basically they don't have to negotiate with the landowners because they can always come in and use eminent domain and take the stuff away any way they like and force on the landowners a very one-sided arrangement where they don't get enough money to compensate them for the damage the pipelines will do in just agricultural land and the loss of the possible ability to develop that land for other purposes and so on. So they just don't want to negotiate with landowners and don't give them a fair crack at negotiations because they can always say, well, if you don't help us, we'll just take eminent domain. The process of intervening in the Illinois Commerce Commission on pipelines is an extremely expensive one. It's very time consuming. It's very legalistic. You can't go in and do it yourself. You have to hire a lawyer and go through months of paperwork and lots of discovery and things like that. And not many people are able to do that sort of thing. We've been through it 3 times now. I did it another time on a previous job, and it's very, very difficult and hard to do. So there really is no other way to keep it done in a way that average landowners can get involved in it, other than by banning the use of eminent domain. Kathy, back to you.
So have companies threatened to use eminent domain to prevent fair negotiations? You bet they have. So, for example, in 2021, Navigator's initial letters to Illinois, they wanted to go through my backyard. By the way, I'm a retired professor from the medical school. I was planning a very nice retirement, and I got a letter. And our goal is to reach voluntary easements. This is what they put in my initial letter, never heard from them before, along the project route. Though if we are unable to do so, we may need to request the right of eminent domain condemnation from the ICC. My heart just sunk. My husband and I have lived here since 1988 to get this property. We're organic gardeners. We have a fountain. We have a beautiful backyard, etc. We were devastated. But similar threats have been made by CO2 pipeline companies to landowners in other states and across this state. One landowner was told when they said, "This is far too dangerous. You can't be this close to my home." And they said, the land agent said, "We run the numbers. It's cheaper to pay death benefits than to reroute the pipeline." That's unacceptable. The ability to use eminent domain creates an adversarial relationship between landowners, CO2 pipeline companies, and gives the company an unfair advantage in negotiations. Wind and solar companies don't have eminent domain. They still go ahead, but they negotiate. They make much better payments. They have setbacks. We don't. And wind and solar is much, much safer than CO2 pipelines. Next slide, please.
It's up there now.
Oh, there we go. So
Yeah.
what's happening with eminent domain for CO2 pipelines in other Midwestern states? South Dakota enacted a 2025 statute prohibiting CO2 pipeline companies from using eminent domain. It was a hard-won battle in South Dakota, but boy, they won. Iowa legislature passed a bill in 2025 prohibiting the use of eminent domain for CO2 pipelines, but Governor Reynolds vetoed it. But that bill is being negotiated again. They're very determined in Iowa. South Dakota, Iowa, where Summit Carbon Solutions sought to use eminent domain, it filed multiple lawsuits against landowners, and it has not received a final unconditional permit. Minnesota does not allow eminent domain for CO2 pipelines, yet project developers obtained voluntary easements for the 28-mile-long pipeline, which was approved by the state's PUC Commission in December 2024. So it can be done without eminent domain. The inability to use eminent domain in Minnesota forced project developers to negotiate voluntary easements with landowners to address many of their concerns related to project impacts. Back to you, Rick.
Okay. We believe that the only answer to safety, protection of landowner rights, and so on, is to ban eminent domain for CO2 pipelines so Illinois landowners can prevent the pipeline from unsafe routing. And in order to do that, we have this bill called Senate Bill 2842, led by Senator Halperin, that has been introduced and is now in the process of collecting co-sponsors and sponsors and organization support and things of that sort. And I think we're doing very well. Many people we've talked to in Illinois General Assembly have heard of the bill, they're aware of it, and we seem to be in a position to collect quite a few sponsors. We're working hard on it. We have many meetings set up to gain sponsors, but we're also collecting support from organizations like yourselves, who can lend their strength and support to us and help us talk to some legislators we maybe can't talk to easily, and gain support for this bill. And so what we're asking is basically for your organization to endorse and support 2842, call legislators and ask them to co-sponsor it. The bill is incredibly simple. It's almost like 2 lines. It affects 2 different acts, but it basically says where the act previously said if the ICC agreed that the pipeline should be there at all, then they automatically got eminent domain. We're saying, no, you don't. You won't get eminent domain. There's no impact on eminent domain for any other kind of infrastructure. So one of the big concerns that's been raised by organizations that are very anxious to get more um, electric lines out there, power lines, because we desperately need them to make our grid system more redundant and more capable to import electricity and export it and so on. They're concerned that this kind of an action would stop their efforts to make it easier to build these large rights of way for power. And we're saying, no, that's not true. Our act is extremely clear that it only covers CO2 pipelines. We have no interest in influencing any other kind of pipelines. Okay, I think that's part. Any last words, Kathy?
No, I don't think so, Rick. I'm the one with the uncultured accent, by the way. But no, this is very brief and cuts to the chase, but happy to answer any questions.
I'll stop sharing at this point.
Yes. And Debbie, I think you're on mute.
We have a few questions. Are
Sure.
you ready for them?
Yep, fire ahead.
Okay. Mark is asking, would EMS responders be safe coming in to help?
The answer is no. Unless they're wearing breathing equipment, oxygen tanks, and so on, and unless they're using electric vehicles rather than their normal fire engines and ambulances and so on, their vehicles will stall and stop, and they will be suffering the same kind of problem that the residents do, and that they can only exist a short time with the levels of CO2 that we expect that are dangerous. So it's very hard to, even if they could get there, because bear in mind, most of the EMS forces are in the areas where the pipelines are going at the moment, are volunteers. So not only do they have to drive to the fire station, pick up their equipment, and then drive out to wherever the accident has occurred, and it'll take them maybe 20 minutes at the best to get there, maybe longer, and by that time it's too late. There's just no one's going to survive if they're anywhere close to the pipeline for 20 minutes.
And you'd assume that they would know what they were getting into, which they probably don't. So
That's a good point. Yes. The warning systems that we would like to see don't exist at the present moment, and it's not clear who's going to legislate that. We expected PIMSA to produce new regulations that would include better detection of ruptures. When these pipelines rupture because the pressure is so high, they blow like a 40-foot hole in the ground as they go out. They did in Cetacea, and at the present moment, they're not required to put the kind of equipment in the ground with the pipeline that will precisely tell them where the rupture is. And it's extremely important to know where that rupture is, because that's where the starting point for the plume is going to be, and it will move with the wind in whatever direction the wind is going to from that point. That will tell you where you have to protect people and where you have to get to. It won't spread evenly around the place very far if there's no wind. I mean, it will spread around, create a circle around, but it's where the wind comes in that it really moves the plume together, stays together, and will move for miles under the wind. But if the wind's 4 miles an hour, 15 minutes per mile, you don't have to be very close to the pipeline to be in danger.
I think the
So,
last time you were on, you showed that picture of that one blowing up in Norway,
yeah,
which was quite
And
frightening.
that was just a very small scale test
yeah,
rupture.
Yeah.
The plume can go up hundreds of feet.
yeah,
The Navigator pipeline here, if it had blown, would have been 40 times that rupture volume.
yeah,
40 times. And so you saw that, but also there's a debris field that comes down, and then it emits at negative 109 degrees Fahrenheit. And so your EMS rescuers coming in are risking frostbite, debris, what goes up must come down. That 40-foot trench, 40-foot wide, that debris is going up hundreds of feet. That's going to come back down. And the companies have shown no willingness to buy the all-electric emergency vehicles, which can cost $1 million each, and to supply the charging stations that they're going to need to take with them to power that.
Yeah.
So, no, it's not safe. Absolutely not.
And
Charles,
the warning system that we have to have doesn't exist at the present moment. There's no adequate way. I mean, it's very different from the kind of thing you've needed for a tornado or something like that. We have to differentiate from tornadoes because your normal reaction to a tornado is to go down to the basement. And that's the worst place to be if CO2 is there. That's where it'll concentrate and kill you off faster than ever. So don't do that. You have to have a different kind of a signal, and it has to be loud enough to wake you up in the middle of the night. That's when it happens. And those things just don't exist at the present moment.
Right.
okay, Charles had a question, which I did copy and paste Kathleen, your information to him, which is how do I contact presenters by email to speak to my group? So there's another person who would like a presentation, I guess. So I did send that, I attached a message to his inquiry. Amy is asking, what is CO2 a byproduct of? What industries, companies?
All sorts of them. In the center of Illinois, the primary source that people are most excited about capturing is from the fermentation of corn or possibly soybeans to make ethanol. Ethanol is a required component of every gallon of gas and diesel that's supposed to be there to make us energy independent. It doesn't. Um, but it's also the reason ethanol is so attractive, or the ethanol plants are so attractive, is that ethanol fermentation creates 99% pure CO2. It has a little bit of water in it and very few other things. And so the process of capturing CO2 from an ethanol plant is pretty simple. You just cool it down to just freeze out the water, then compress it in several stages to 2,000 pounds per square inch, and you're done. Now, if you were to go to a power station, like for example, Prairie State Power Station in the south of Illinois, coal-fired power station producing not only CO2 but sulfur dioxide, hydrogen sulfide, nitrogen oxides, 0.25 particulates, and coal ash. The coal ash doesn't get in the way, but everything else does. It's much more difficult and much more expensive, and frankly, not proven that you can even separate out CO2 effectively from some places. So coal-fired power stations, natural gas-fired power stations, fertilizer plants that use ammonia, and cement works are some of the biggest ones. Steel works also produce it. And some of those are really hard. And of course, what the other thing that's really hard is airplanes. It's really hard to get a battery-powered airplane across the Atlantic at the moment. And so what we're planning, or what people are planning on doing, is to take the ethanol and make synthetic aviation fuel out of it. Again, another unproven and expensive process. It produces SAF that's about 3 times as expensive as the normal jet fuel. And the airline companies aren't prepared to pay for it, but they know they've got to decarbonize. This is the only way they can do it. So if you make your SAF from ethanol, you're going to create a lot of CO2 in the process. And the alternative, even more unproven, is to take the CO2 itself and make synthetic aviation fuel out of it. It can be done. Again, it's expensive, requires hydrogen, and making the hydrogen with renewable electricity is expensive. So we're working on 3 different things. The pipelines themselves are somewhat experimental. The capture processes too, and the sequestration processes. And then you've got these SAF plants that might come along as well.
And then the data centers want to bring in natural gas with CCS and try to call it green, which it isn't. And then the hydrogen plants, they say, oh, hydrogen burns clean. Yeah, but the production of hydrogen produces a lot of CO2 for most of the methods.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Wow. Kristen has a question. If it gets installed anywhere, will there be markers along the pipeline, just like on a 4-lane highway, like mile markers and 1/4 mile markers, so the EMS know where to go?
They have to put up toxic hazardous waste signs. I would say they say toxic on them, although it certainly is at those concentrations. But they have to put up hazardous waste signs along the route, then try to sell your property when that's on it. So they take your land through eminent domain, and then you've got the hazardous waste signs on it. Not big when people are coming to drive down to see your house. But in the future, going forward, I think that EMS, like with our new state regulations, they would have to be informed of where the pipeline runs. They didn't know where it was in Satartia. They weren't informed. But with our state law that we put in, they do have to be informed of where it is. But that's certainly not going to solve all the problems.
They're supposed to have meetings with the pipeline companies or the sequestration companies before anything is put in the ground to negotiate how EMS will solve. But it's not at all clear that it really is possible for EMS to do much to help, unfortunately.
But we do need some help contacting legislators, or we'll never get this passed. As you can imagine, labor's already out there opposing it.
Yeah.
Okay, Merritt is asking, do we just burn coal?
A lot of places still do. We've been trying to shut down the coal-fired power stations for, 10 years now, I guess it is. And an awful lot of them have gone. Now, our dear president is thinking about bringing them back again, even though it's the most expensive source of coal short of nuclear and the dirtiest source. And it literally kills off people every year from particularly the particulate matter. I think they say 60 people a year are killed off by the Prairie State power station. And yeah, that's so.
And even though they've reversed the endangerment rule, so now they say, let her rip basically, we don't care about the pollutants in the air. They've kept the 45Q credits to sequester CO2 because it makes so much money for the fossil fuel companies and they lobbied for it. So it doesn't make any sense. It's not consistent, but if you look at it as what gives the most money to the fossil fuel companies, then everything falls into place. And that's what this is all about.
Yeah. And they will also raise the payment, the tax credit for CO2 used to be that it was $85 a ton for sequestration and $60 a ton for enhanced oil recovery. And in the big beautiful bill, they raised it to $85 per ton for enhanced oil recovery. That means anybody who's got a source of CO2 is inclined to say it can be used for enhanced oil recovery. Now, you can't do that in Illinois because we banned EOR in Illinois, but you could ship it out of Illinois on a pipeline to this 96,000 mile pipeline plan that Kathy mentioned has lots of the CO2 going down to Texas and Permian area and so on, where they can use a huge amount of CO2. They had 4 parallel 48-inch pipelines as part of that, going all the way down to Texas. Not going to happen, but that was the plan of what it would take to make a dent in the CO2 in the atmosphere.
Okay, now Jen is asking, could they purchase existing pipelines?
The answer is yes. There's one pipeline that's been converted from natural gas to CO2 gas, but it can only use gas. It cannot compress the CO2 far enough to make it liquid. It's much less efficient to pipe it as gas than if you can make it a liquid. So the pipelines were built for CO2, for natural gas, are good for maybe 600, 700 pounds per square inch and can't handle any more than that. And you can't make them handle any more than that. But they can be, the one up in in Nebraska, Trailblazer pipeline there has been converted so far successfully to take CO2.
Okay, Robin is asking, CO2 pipelines are for data centers? Question.
No, not for data centers, but when they get to the point where they need to bring their own power with them, one of the solutions, for example, Google across Iowa said we're going to bring all of our own power for each data center. It's going to be natural gas with CCS. So they want to put a natural gas plant for each of the data centers in Iowa and then do carbon capture and storage. They can't store it in Iowa because they don't have the right geology. So they're going to have to run pipelines from Iowa somewhere where they can sequester. And lo and behold, we're right next door.
They were going to take it from Iowa and Nebraska and Minnesota and South Dakota
South Dakota.
to North Dakota. But when South Dakota put their ban on pipelines in it, they felt they couldn't negotiate. They weren't prepared to pay enough to negotiate a route right away through South Dakota. So they're sort of stuck. And there's thoughts that they might decide that in order to continue with their pipeline development, they'll have to bring it down to Illinois. But they haven't got a plan, haven't got an announced plan to do that yet.
Okay. Lynn is asking, are these pipelines also placed where data centers are? She says Grays Lake Village pushed a giant data center through the trustees without any outreach to the residents. Is this group also working on these? There is no information on this data center, very vague, and it was hidden by calling it a land acquisition. We could use some help on how to stop this.
Yeah, I don't know the details of the one in Grays Lake, but many of the big data centers need more power than the existing lines can handle. They don't have, they consume gigawatts of power. It's like 1 gigawatt is a nuclear power station's worth of power. And they need to have 24-hour day power. So it's not, they could put in windmills, wind turbines, and solar cells and batteries, and that will be the cheapest way of getting the electricity. It's far cheaper that way than getting it from natural gas or coal. But they don't feel it's reliable enough. So they need so much of it that they decided that they can either go locate adjacent to a nuclear power station and take the nuclear power, create their own small modular nuclear power station using completely unproven technology, or use the proven technology of a natural gas-fired power station. Difficulty there is that it'll take them maybe 3 or 4 years to be able to get the the natural gas power station built, maybe even longer than that, because there's a very long wait time on the kind of generators and turbines you need for a natural gas power station. So they may be forced into using renewable power, and someone want to do that anyhow, but they could get that quicker and cheaper. But they'd
So
have
next month's climate change meeting is going to be on data centers. So
okay.
that'll be on March 24th. So I can't remember who's presenting it, but we're lining that up. So that'll be good.
We're finding a data center in my neighborhood too, but no CCS involved in that one yet. But there's when you have to have a lot more energy fast, there's going to be a problem.
Yeah.
Okay, Paul is asking, what do you consider the pros and cons of geothermal as an alternative to other energy choices?
Good. I mean, the geothermal is clean power. There's not much of it going on in Illinois. It can, you got to go down quite a long way to get enough heat out of it to run a big power station, but it can be done. And we'd rather do that than natural gas or any other form of it.
Okay, Barbara's inquiry, is there a time frame or more information concerning the plan for centers and pipelines? I am confused.
Data centers, does that mean, do you think?
I'm not, can you clarify the question?
Let's see if she can clarify. Barbara, okay, question. Is there a time frame or more information concerning the plan for centers and pipelines? Data centers she did put in.
Okay. Um, Data centers are sort of new ones are being announced almost daily, it seems like. And none of them, as far as I know, have got far enough to have plans for exactly how they'll put in their power supplies and a pipeline and sequestration and so on. I haven't seen any detailed plans. Have you, Kathy?
No.
No,
I,
I just don't think they've got that far yet.
Okay.
I think companies are being deliberately vague.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the whole process of data centers has been done in great deal of secrecy. Almost nothing is transparent. You know very little about them. And just like the one up in Grays Lake, you find out about them when they've already been approved or something like that. It just needs, it's an area where a vast amount of regulation is needed. These things have come out of nowhere, and we just need to regulate them.
Okay, so I guess I kind of have an inquiry due to Jen's question. And so necessarily, data centers do not necessarily need the pipelines at all. Is that
Depends on the energy they're going to bring in.
okay?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and
In theory, they could do it all with renewable energy and not need any heated power station. The efficiency of a natural gas power station is very low compared to capturing with renewables and so on, and the cost is high. But it is dependable. You can have it 24 hours a day, and that's something we can't achieve as easily with renewables.
Yeah. Well, I guess boy, Mark, when you have the next data center aspect, there's going to be people on that one.
There will be people on that one. So,
Yeah.
action items again for this. Our
Call
bill
your,
again.
yeah, call your representatives and your senators, send them emails. Many of them have got a where you can email them easily. Just call up their own website and they have a way of sending a message there. It's particularly hard to get to your senators because most of them don't publish an
Yes.
email address. So use their websites and go in there and send them a message. Just all you need to say is I support Senate Bill 2842 for the safety of everybody really, and landowners, the landowner rights and so on. Something like that would be good, just to let them know that there's support. We did had a booth down at the Farm Progress Show last year and got over 700 postcards that look a lot like this that was backwards to you, but we are sending out now to the senators and the representatives, and they really appreciate knowing that people are interested in this. And they once they realize they get 20 postcards from their own constituents, that makes a lot of impression on them.
So
So
keep us posted on this, and when we can take more action, and when witness slips come along, and all that stuff. So
we'll do that.
we'll probably have you back again when this gets closer.
Super. Thank you so much.
great. And I can send you out action alerts. I put in
Yeah.
a coalition to stop CO2 pipelines. It's not the coalition for CO2 pipelines, by the way. If you just put that in, that'll take you right to the website for us. And we have petitions, you just clickable, and letters to your legislators. I could also send out Mark action alerts if you like. Rick and I are both part of the Coalition to Stop CO2 Pipelines, and we're backed by the major environmental organizations in Illinois, by the way. So if anyone has a question, we've got Sierra Club support, Illinois Environmental Council support. Oh, and by the way, Illinois Farm Bureau, Illinois soybean growers on the farmer side, and a lot of the major greens here. So I won't list them all out, but we've got 20 supporting organizations right now.
So, and for you people in other states other than Illinois, this is probably happening in your states too. So you might want to get a hold of your environmental groups there and find out what's going on in your state legislatures. So,
Particularly Iowa right now. They could
Yeah.
really use the attention in Iowa. It's
Yeah.
Yes.
a really hot deal out there. And since the governor vetoed the last bill after taking $200,000 from the company that wanted to build the pipeline.
why am I not surprised? So, are we done? We're done with this portion, I think, Debbie?
I believe so. I believe
Yes.
so.
Thank
So,
you. Thank you for the
Thank you
time.
so much,
Thank you,
everybody.
Kathleen. Thank you, Richard, for
Really
coming on.
appreciate
We'll
it.
see you. We'll see you down the road shortly. So, and Marilyn, I think we're turning it over to you.
That's right.
Hey, scary thought. All right. So, Bill, if you will, go ahead and